Hi, I'm Drew. Rosemary, right? I was hoping to run into you. I tried calling information to get your number, but it wasn't listed. You live in Hoboken?
Good morning. How are you? Good.
An opening scene from Voices, a love story between a young man and a girl he's just discovered is deaf. Voices is one of 5 new films we'll be reviewing on Sneak Previews, 2 critics discussing, and on this show, strongly disagreeing about the latest movies in town. This is Roger Ebert, the film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And this is Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune. In addition to Voices, which I must say I liked a lot,
I didn't.
We'll be reviewing Phantasm, a combination of horror and comedy. Last Embrace, a thriller that owes a lot to the films of Alfred Hitchcock. In fact, maybe too much.
I don't think so.
Okay, and now, Gene, you're going to start with Boulevard Nights,
All right, well,
right?
what did you think of that?
I almost liked it.
I liked it an awful lot. Boulevard Nights is the latest in a series of films we're getting these days about inner-city youth gangs. The first gang film of the current cycle was The Warriors. There was deadly violence outside 3 of the theaters where The Warriors was playing. And the tendency now is, I suppose, to lump all the gang films together as potentially inciting kids in the audience to riot. But that in no way describes Boulevard Nights, a very sensitive and tender story of 2 brothers in the Mexican-American community of East Los Angeles. It's about the ways they relate to the gangs that dominate their neighborhood. And a big deal in gangdom is competition between gang members to see who can bounce his car the highest on his customized hydraulic lifters.
1, 2, 3, hit it! Hey, Raymond, show these dudes how we got these hydraulics.
Hey, you go ahead and check them out, man.
Yeah, look at it. All right, come on, look at this. You gotta learn.
Sounds like a Saturday Night Fever disco tune in the background there. Now, does that scene strike you as weird? It is weird, and yet I think it's a marvelous symbol of the absolute futility of what gangs engage in. Kids just bouncing their cars. Seems sort of pathetic. The central battle in Boulevard Nights involves an older brother who's trying to save his younger brother from what looks like certain death if he continues to run with his gang. When the older brother, played by Richard Iniguez, gets married, the younger brother, Danny De La Paz, can't even get himself together enough to make it to the ceremony. Late in the evening, he apologizes in a tender scene.
Chico? You gonna come in?
I don't know. A lot of people still there?
Yes, some. Why the hell weren't you there? Hey, I'm asking you a question.
I guess I'm just dumb, like you said.
You're not dumb, man.
I wanted to be at your wedding and everything, man. I wanted to be there, but I just get real mad sometimes, and I don't know what to do. I wanted to be there, man. I should have been there.
Come on, let's grab a beer.
A good scene that strikes me as one of the many honest moments in Boulevard Nights. The younger brother is trying his best he can to articulate what causes things to go bad around and inside him. Boulevard Nights doesn't glory in any of its violence. On the contrary, it tries to explain it. It's a gang film I really think that's worth seeing.
Well, I almost think it's worth seeing. One of the problems that I have is that I think it does a very good job of observing this kind of life that they lead. It shows the neighborhood, it shows the people, it shows the gangs, it shows the alternative ways out and maybe the ways that people are trapped inside.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, except that right on top of that, we keep sensing the presence of this typical kind of cliched, stereotyped Hollywood screenplay. We know, got the kid brother, you have the older brother, you have the long-suffering mother, you have the good girl who becomes the good wife, you have the tragic conclusion. It's as if at every moment these characters who are so bursting with life and who are about to come out and convince us right off of the screen are kind of constrained by a screenplay that could have been a made-for-TV movie or could have been made 6 times before.
But when you make a film about a gang film, I mean, frequently, that's where it does lead. That's when we read about it, regrettably. Other things go on in gangs, I'm sure, but this is where it spills over and affects the public, who gets caught in the crossfire of the gang one way or another.
Well, maybe another kind of conclusion could have been arrived at, or maybe it could have even had a happy ending for a change or something like that. One thing I must say, though, is that it's very unfair to lump this film with The Warriors, as you've already pointed out. When I walked into the theater to see Boulevard Nights, I was handed a leaflet by a brilliant group that said you don't have to spend $4 to know this film is not worth seeing because its only purpose is to incite people to violence. Well, it does exactly the opposite. It really shows violence as a very tragic thing and a very pointless thing, and it does show the way in which gangs can trap kids so that they really feel they have no alternative than to take actions that, in a way, almost inevitably, are going to lead them into very tragic
See, there you go, inevitably. That's the inevitability of the script.
In other words, I've doubled back on myself.
A little bit, maybe.
I still felt the cliches coming through too often.
One of the things that I really respected about the film is a performance by that kid that was wearing that hat in that scene we just saw, Danny De La Paz. There's a marvelous moment that speaks really about this gang films. The kid comes in, he's been blitzed out all night on angel dust. He comes in, falls down in his bed, still wearing the hat. So you got this picture of this young kid, incongruous, wearing this adult hat. It was sort of a pathetic sight. Really, it was a beautiful little performance. His first one, I understand.
That was a poignant moment. The movie has good moments. I can't quite recommend it as strongly as you can. But in any event, it's worth seeing, which is certainly not the case with our next film.
No.
Has absolutely no social significance whatsoever. It's a new horror film called Phantasm, and it's set in a highly unusual funeral home and a cemetery where nobody rests in peace. It has a few nice touches, like a severed finger that kind of creeps around with a mind of its own, and this weird little stainless steel ball that flies through the air, and it has 2 claws that come out and they dig into your forehead, and then a little screw comes out and drills into your brain, kind of like a lobotomy from a dentist. Anyway, the movie's about these 2 brothers who live near the funeral home, and the younger brother is sort of a nosy type who goes prowling around, gets into all sorts of trouble.
I've been waiting for you.
Well, that was a good action scene, and there are lots of creepy moments in Phantasm that do work, but the movie's just really a bunch of special effects and horror cliches borrowed secondhand from The Late Show. They're strung together, they make no particular point. If the movie had a better story and even remotely convincing characters, along with those neat little touches like the stainless steel buzzsaw for the brain, well, it might have been a pretty good horror film, but as it is, Phantasm is a mess.
I agree with you, and possibly I like it even less. You're right. The buzzsaw, the finger, that's fun. That's the first half hour of the picture. From then on, forget it. There's nothing else. I don't know what this filmmaker had to say or do with this picture.
I'll tell you what it made me think of. It made me think of an exercise, like in film class. The exercise was go out, shoot as many basic horror cliches as you can think of. You know, like the hand from around the corner hits you on the shoulder and you look around like this, and it's not really a threat at all, or the creepy corridor, or people hiding behind tombstones and so forth, and they're strung together one after the other with no purpose. What's the movie about? Why do we have to come in at the beginning? Why do we have to wait until the end? It's like a loop. You can come in at any point, have X number of experiences, and walk out again.
And it's all very chopped up. I mean, we get a thing with a time warp that is thrown in there. I don't know. We just wanted to show us a time warp. There's no explanation. It's never repeated.
Well, have you seen a time warp lately?
No.
Well, now you have.
Okay. Well, now we go on to a much better film, Last Embrace, one of the most stylish thrillers I've seen in recent years. It's a thoroughly compelling story of a burnout government agent trying to solve one last mystery that threatens his life. Roy Scheider, who I think is one of our finest and most underrated actors, stars as a government agent who's just seen his wife murdered. Later, he receives a death threat himself. Apparently trying to help him solve the crime is Janet Margolin, a university student he meets and falls in love with.
Anybody home? Meow. Hey! Where is the fabulous Miss Fabian? Aha! Compliments of the house.
What's this for?
It's for you. This too.
You shouldn't have. Well, I'll take this with me.
Take it with you. What's all this about?
Finally giving you a break moving out.
No, you're not.
It's silly. It's time.
Why?
I don't know. I'm afraid of what will happen if I stay.
I'm not afraid of what'll happen if you stay. In fact, I'm counting on it.
I have to sort things out with Richard.
You better sort things out with me first. Now, listen, Ellie. When I said you were good for me, I meant it. Why can't I be good for you?
We tried.
Yeah, but that was then. And this is now.
What are you doing?
A great kiss for a thriller. Absolutely no tenderness involved. A fine undercurrent of violence in that scene. Eventually, Roy Scheider begins to think that Janet Margolin may herself be connected to the threats in his life. We're not sure, though. Could be his paranoia. He's so paranoid, which I guess is an occupational hazard for a government agent. He's suspicious of everyone. Late in the film, he makes up his mind, though, that she is out to kill him, and he chases her through the caverns and tunnels of Niagara Falls.
Over this section here. This is where the barrelers would come over. Two rocks below, 200 feet deep of water. They hit. Hopefully they thought they could make it. They strapped them on the inner tube, tied together with webbing. Come over here. Sometimes
great. Now that's a true cliffhanger. Wonderful scene. In fact, all the scenes at the falls are very, very stylish, great looking, powerful camera movements, and with a pair of superior leading performances by Roy Scheider and Janet Margolin. Last Embrace, a thoroughly entertaining thriller.
Well, Gene, now you once told me that when two critics go to a movie, look at it very seriously, and one loves it and the other hates it, the movie must have something on the ball.
I think it does. I mean, you're saying
okay,
that
well,
you
I'm
didn't
saying this movie must have something on the ball because I hated it as much as you
I
apparently
can't
liked
believe
it.
that you hated it. There's good acting there that I don't think you can deny.
I didn't hate it in the sense that I thought Phantasm was
No.
total garbage, no, but I felt that it was a very frustrating film to watch.
What's wrong with being frustrated?
I didn't know what the purpose was. The first hour and 15 minutes set up a lot of situations. He's paranoid, he thinks people are following him. Maybe they are following him. Characters are introduced, then they disappear. We're intended, I think, to be frustrated, but I didn't enjoy that experience. And what I enjoyed even less was finding out at the end what everything was all about. If there's anything I cannot stand in a movie, it's that moment when the director points his camera at one of the characters who then has to read about a page and a half of dialogue explaining everything.
Aren't there lots of classic old movies where we get that kind of explanation, and don't you, in some mystery, I know you're a big mystery fan, right? Don't you love it when the guy tells all about it?
Generally speaking, no. I'm like the guy who never reads the last chapter of the Agatha Christie because he doesn't want to know what the solution was. For example, in this one, they get in a car, they drive to Niagara Falls, they get out of the car, they face each other, and they talk. It's the old, you mean to say, yes. As a matter of fact, I do.
It's done in a classic
But then,
way.
yes, you're exactly right, and so forth. And the conclusion there, or part of the conclusion, what we saw there at Niagara Falls, that scene, and indeed the entire ending of the film, could never have been made if Alfred Hitchcock had never made films. It's totally derivative. There's no original vision there.
I think it's original. The story is very special. The secret, which we can't reveal, it's very special, very contemporary in a way, aggressive. I think it's intriguing. I liked it from start to finish. Didn't mind being frustrated at any point.
Okay, so we have a very big yes vote from you and a no vote from me, and people are going to have to make up their own minds, I guess. Confidentially, don't go to see it. We've seen a lot of love stories this year and looked at them on the show, in which one of the partners was handicapped in some way. Let's see, we've had blind ice skaters and paraplegic skiers, dancers with bone diseases, suicidal poets. Most of those movies didn't convince us because they depended so obviously on the handicaps in order to gain our sympathy. But there's a new movie named Voices that's also about a handicapped person. In this case, it's a deaf girl who falls in love with a rock singer, and it did convince me. I believed in the two young lovers, and I believed in their respect for one another. The movie begins with the two of them very tentative. Each one is kind of shy about taking a chance on someone from a different world.
Oh, yeah, I'm a singer. What I was doing in that recording booth was I used to have a tape recorder, but someone stole it. Oh, I'm talking too fast for you to read my lips. Must be hard to read lips. You must miss a lot. What? Oh, yeah. Someone stole my tape recorder. So I made one of those records and took it to an agent so he could hear my voice. Can I call you? Can I call you?
Michael Onkine and Amy Irving, and very good performances. And if we had more of the two of them, I think I would have liked the movie even better. But there's a parallel story about his family. Now, he has a colorful grandfather and a colorful father and a colorful younger brother. They live in a colorful neighborhood. Upstairs over a colorful dry cleaning store. They seem to be refugees from a TV situation comedy. And so the fascinating relationship between the two lovers has to take a back seat to scenes like this.
The Jersey Turnpike is opening at Patterson's. It's Saturday night. I want everybody there, right?
What time does it start?
Come around 8.
They're expecting a big crowd, aren't they?
I'm right here.
What did you say?
I said I'm right here. What are you yelling at?
Who's yelling?
What the hell are you screaming at?
Nobody's screaming. You having trouble with your ears?
Am I having what?
Trouble with your ears.
I am now, yeah.
Well, then let's get you to a doctor.
What for? You're going deaf. I'm going deaf. We know. What? You guys kill me. I'm not deaf. But I'm seeing a girl who is. I met this girl.
What girl?
She's deaf.
That girl we saw?
Yeah.
What girl?
That beautiful girl's deaf?
Yeah.
Yeah, what girl?
Will you stop yelling? Her name is Rosemary Lemon.
And she can't hear this lemon?
That's what deaf usually means, don't it?
Well, that family displays what's probably a fairly common reluctance to relate to people who can't hear, so I had to admire the way in which the movie shows two people plunging in emotionally and breaking down that kind of barrier, and for me, Voices was most effective and most involving when it showed us moments from the real daily life of a deaf person, the kind of problems they face, the way they overcome them. I think it's a film very much worth seeing.
Well, you made a good point earlier in criticism, and that's my main criticism, and that is we get this extra story, which we're really not interested in, this kid's family. It's another lower-class movie family that goes nuts at the dinner table.
They throw dinner rolls at each other.
Right, that's the
and
way
so
they
forth.
talk to each other.
Right.
That gets old real fast. And you know what really disappoints me is that in so doing, they spent half the time with this family. If they had spent more time with the real subject that this movie is about, the deaf kids, the deaf girl, we would have had a story there. Let's see them together. Let's see them struggle to communicate. That's
I think
what this
so. It
film's
might
about.
have been a failure of courage, because the moments when they are trying to communicate, when he is learning a little bit about sign language and a little bit about her problems and expressing his love and she's expressing her love, that's fascinating.
Yes,
I
it
was
is.
really right inside the movie at a moment like that.
And yet they duck away from it. They duck away. One emotion to a scene. Aren't you tired of scenes that end so quickly? Let's have a little complication. Why can't they argue and be happy at the same time?
I'm with you. And I think one thing also that we might mention, in San Francisco and a couple of other places where this movie is played, it's been picketed by deaf people who say, first of all, it's not accurate technically in some details, and secondly, Amy Irving, who plays the girl, is not deaf herself. Well, I think the second thing is that we can just dismiss that, because actors and actresses have a skill, which is to portray somebody who they are not themselves. They're not like that.
And what about the first objection? It's not accurate.
It's not accurate. I don't know. I have to plead ignorance. I don't know whether it's accurate or not. I do know that I knew very little about the problems of deaf people before I saw the movie. I think I know more now, at least in terms of what I sensed and what I felt, what came out in terms of the heart of the film.
If the facts are not right, the spirit is right of the picture on that score. For me, though, we just get not enough of it.
Hold on just a doggone minute, Gene. I think we have a visitor in the balcony, and sure enough, it's Spot the Wonder Dog. And whenever Spot visits us in the balcony, that means it's time for Dog of the Week, when we each pick the week's worst movies. My dog this week is one of those spaghetti westerns shot in Spain on a budget of peanuts. It's called Get Mean, and it stars Tony Anthony, and its ads are really pleasant. Go ahead, they say. You've always wanted to. Get mean. The movie itself seems to exist in some kind of a time warp. Tony Anthony plays an American cowboy, regulation. He gets mixed up with hordes of barbarians and Mongols, though, who chase him around the landscape for no particular reason, except I guess he's searching for some kind of buried treasure. And there's also a girl, of course, who gasps a lot, and she runs around in the sand. Maybe she's just turned on by the costumes, because Tony Anthony wears a regulation Clint Eastwood uniform, complete with his flat black hat and his blanket thrown over his shoulders. But the barbarians and the Mongols, they seem a little confused. They're not wearing costumes out of the same period. One of them even has a Viking helmet, one of those helmets with the horns on it, you know. I think his next raid ought to be on the wardrobe department.
Well, Roger, my dog is a film I happened to see in New York a few weeks ago. It's The Great Bank Hoax, one of those comic portraits of a small town where most everyone is corrupt. A whole bunch of bank officials plot together to pull off a perfect crime. The thieves are Burgess Meredith, Richard Basehart, Ned Beatty. After the bank robbery, they have trouble getting home.
Where's the car? We didn't bring the car. It's too risky.
How am I supposed to get home?
Where's your car?
In the garage. I came with you this morning.
Oh, I forgot.
A stirring action for a bank robbery picture. These guys should be robbing nursing homes, not banks. This is one of those rare films where the criminals are so unappealing we root for the cops. But there is a happy ending to all of this. Warner Brothers has pulled The Great Bank Hoax out of theatrical distribution. The only place it'll play now is on TV. Be on the lookout. For free, it's still a ripoff.
It's not often you get a happy ending like that, you know. Often they just take these dogs and release them anyway. But now for another look at the major movies on this program. We disagreed on 3 out of 4. Boulevard Nights was the R-rated drama about Chicano street gangs in Los Angeles. Gene liked it. He gives it a yes. He recommends you see it. I admired a lot of it too, but I give it a reluctant no. Neither one of us can recommend Phantasm, also R-rated, the horror thriller set in a cemetery. Bury this one with 2 no's for Phantasm. We disagree again on The Last Embrace. Gene thinks it's a stylish thriller. I found it confusing. He says yes. I say no. We also split on Voices, about a love affair between a deaf girl and a rock singer. I found a lot of it warm and involving. Gene only liked the love story. So, Gene, that's 3 out of 4 disagreements. Out of the movies on this program, which one would you recommend the most?
It's a toss-up for me between Last Embrace, which I really like, and Boulevard Nights, too. I think that's worth taking a risk. How about on Boulevard Nights? Can I twist you a little bit to say yes?
Not quite. Just almost.
What do you
but
like
I would recommend Voices. I think that's very much worth seeing.
Voices, the one about the deaf girl, right?
Right, yes.
Okay. Well, that's all for this show. Next on Sneak Previews, Roger and I will take a look at The Promise, a tragic love story starring Kathleen Quinlan, The Prisoner of Zenda, a Peter Sellers comedy, and Alien, the science fiction thriller set in outer space. Until then, see you at the movies.
Funding for this program is provided by this station and by other public television stations.